maybe we ought to launch into our show and tell, and then our beads of courage, and then I have a short announcement about a new President's Challenge coming up for next month. So, Richard, if we're ready to take a look at our show and tell, the way this has worked in the past and the way we'll continue to do it, Richard will be putting up the slides, and I'll give you a heads up as to who's coming next, so that whoever is in line knows to clear their throat and get sitting up straight and comb their hair and whatever else. So Charlie Saul is going to kick us off.
Did everybody see the show and tell?
Show and tell. Okay, Charlie, where are you? Are you
Hi there, everyone. Can you hear me all right?
Yep, can.
All right. Well, this one is a 10-inch bay laurel hollow form vase, and I have lately had a kind of fascination with how hexagons fit on a curve. As they get larger and smaller diameters, you get larger and smaller hexagons, and so I enjoyed doing this. It actually probably could have been just a simple texture, but you know, laying out all of the hexagons was a bit of a challenge. Anyhow, enjoyed doing this. In particular, I like the dyed base that is the hexagon base there, and so I liked how that one came out. And I probably would have done actually deeper carvings for the hexagons, but as it turned out, my hollow form was pretty thin. So as you do a hexagon, you're carving away surface area anyway. So if I were to do this again and wanted to do them deeper, I would probably make my hollow form a little deeper in the first place. And then this one is a 13-inch, what I call a scrap bowl, segmenting. And I had not done segmenting for quite a while. I got inspired by one of the group members and decided to do the veneer for the first time. And so I enjoyed.
I guess I'm back on.
I don't know why I'm getting a little background there, but
It's Gordon. Gordon, you need to mute your iPad again. You're back on, but you need to mute it.
I'm
all right, guys.
Okay, Gordon's muted.
All right, guys. So yeah, so I wanted to try veneering for the first time, and you can see the veneers between the scrap wood segments. They happen to be mahogany, and I had not done veneering before, so I decided to purchase some veneer on Amazon, 3 sheets for about $15. And this 13, for those that want to try to do something like this, the 3 sheets is exactly what this bowl required, was 3 12 by 12 sheets of veneer. And so you can do probably up to, like I said, a 13-inch bowl with 3 sheets of veneer from Amazon for about $15. But I rather like the scrap bowl look, and these are just offcuts that I happen to throw in a box and then decide to put together. So I had fun doing that.
Charlie, I got a question for you about cutting the hexagons. Did you
Sure.
have a pattern to cut those, or how did you get them so uniformly regular?
Well, okay, so I, of course, have a 24 indexer on my lathe head. So I was able to at least mark the vertical lines first, which you can actually see really clearly, the sides, sort of the sides of the hexagons and the sides of the foot. And then from there, I actually just made squares in the other direction. So in other words, following the, as the vessel got wider, the squares would get larger. And then it was a matter of actually carving so that you get that sort of a 20 or 30-degree angle. And so it was not that easy. And I know it looks simple. I wish there was an easy way to do it. Probably, a computer could do it really easy. But sorry, there's no easy way to do it, as that I can tell.
I think it's really interesting, and I love the idea. I never ever considered cutting hexagonal windows in a piece, so that's something new to consider.
Charlie,
Good, thank
Time
you.
I've
Charlie,
ever seen that.
Charlie, I had a question. Did
Sure.
you use just a regular burr to carve each one of those hexagons?
I did. As a matter of fact, I actually used a burr that I saw on TikTok that I'd never seen before. And it's like a little 3-wing long burr. And I said, what the heck, I'll give it a try. I get 3 for $25. And they work great. I only use the smallest burr. And it's really smooth for getting a smooth sidewall, which is difficult to carve generally with burrs. It does on the side, and getting a side cut that's very shallow is typically difficult to do with burrs. And these particular ones off of TikTok um, were really allowed me to do long, shallow cuts. So that's it helped me out.
Can you
Okay.
put a link in the chat for that?
You know something? It would take me a while to find it,
Yeah.
and what I'll do is I'll go ahead and go back to my email verification, and then that will show me what it was that I bought, and I'll send it out to the club. Okay,
Great, thank
I'll
you.
send it out to Richard, and maybe he can forward it to the club.
Thank you. Nice job.
Thank you.
One thing about it, it does call your attention to maintaining wall thickness all the way around, because I can see it now. So it also.
That's right. I also liked having the little wider top so that I could look in and see the windows from the outside in.
Okay, great. Jim Campbell's up next. I follow him on the YouTube all the time, so show us what you've got.
All right, well, thank you. Real quick, you saw one of my segmented pens, I think, last month or the month before, following on Jim's recommendation to do something different. Well, what I'm doing here is I decided I'm going to try to get rid of all the exterior jewelry and just make a pen that was segmented and just use the inside components. These inside components are a kit called the Harvest Kit. They're from Timber Bits. And I use the tubes and the nib, and I turn down the center band so it fits inside the cap. And I turn down the collar on the coupling so that it fits inside the body. And so when you screw it together, it looks like one piece. I'm not super thrilled with this. I mean, I'm my own worst critic, so let me start with that. I would change proportions on this. This is 2.5, 2.5, body to cap. I think next time I'm going to go 2.5 cap, 3.5 to 4 on the body. Second, I tried a chop saw for my segmenting for the first time, and I am not a fan of using a chop saw when you're trying to cut 188 3/16. So I'll probably go back to the table saw and work on that. If you look at this really close, my cuttings ranged anywhere from 170 to 195. So I grouped them into 170s and 180s, and every other segment is a wide segment, with the opposite being a narrower segment. So there's actually 10 thousandths difference roughly between some of those segments. So I've got some work to do on segmenting. So that's the pen. We'll keep at it. And then, after Jim talked about working on miniatures, I decided to pull some boxes off the shelf that I've been throwing pieces of wood in for years. And I've sorted through them, and I've got all these small pieces of wood, and I decided I'm going to start using some of these. And this is a spalted maple with a black walnut cap. An early start on the Christmas ornaments. Hopefully I'll get enough made so that Linda can have some at her boutique. But yeah, it was just a one-day project just to throw something together.
It's too bad that Bob Nolan's not here looking. He loves those little tiny birds too.
Well, the bad part with those birds is when you buy them from Michael's, about 3/4 of them are smashed flat. They're pretty close to it. So you got to sort through them to find one that looks halfway like a bird.
Well, they came out great. I love it. Beautiful.
Thank
Michael
you.
Hackett, how are you doing?
Hi, everybody. Good to see you. Well, this was a beautiful piece of pear that I brought home from raffle, and it was a crotch, and I often don't know how I'm going to approach the crotch. So in this case, I didn't touch it. I didn't do anything, and I left it out in the yard for a year and a half, 2 years. So it was quite cracked. I turned it down, and I got the picture we're looking at now. You can see I've started opening up the cracks with the burr because I used milliput, and you need at least 1/8 of an inch to get the milliput down in there. Some of the issues I ran into there, the cracks were horizontal to how the bowl sits. So meaning that the rim side of the cracks are quite acute and material comes off quite quickly, where the downhill side of that crack is an obtuse angle. So I wanted to try and work it and not to have it look too tooled by the time it was all done. But I used milliput for the first time. I think it has its place. And I posted the pictures on Facebook, and I sold the piece within 15 minutes. So that was pretty cool.
That's a neat effect. It looks like, doesn't look very nice until you start cutting into the milliput and starting to show some real shape, but contrast is nice.
Yeah, you don't ever really know what you're going to get. And there were a lot of times where I wanted to do it, but I kept going with it. I do have a recommendation if anybody wants to try milliput. I got the stuff I got from Jackson Art Supply in the UK, and it was about $7 US opposed to Amazon, where the turquoise was about 14 to 17 if you could find it. I did pay $11 in shipping, international shipping, but I bought 3 packages, so I still came out ahead.
Okay, would you tell us, spell milliput for us? Because a couple of people were asking.
Yeah, it's Milliput, and it's from the UK. It's a 2-part epoxy putty. So one bar is usually a white, and the other, like the turquoise here, the turquoise started off looking quite forest green, and when you start mixing it with the white, you start seeing the turquoise. So it's kind of easy to tell when you have it well mixed, because you don't have blotches of the darker green and the white. It has a couple-hour working time. You can push it in there with dental tools. You can wet it down a little bit, have it spread a little bit, but it's kind of like grouting, I suppose, if you ever had a thick grout and you're trying to force it into some cracks. But the next day it's sandable, it's turnable. I think it has its place. I don't have a pressure pot or vacuum chamber big enough for a lot of the stuff I would like to cast. So I think where places where epoxy would run out, if you've already established your turns and you don't have those, flat surfaces to fill voids, I think milliput has its place. So I welcome people to check it out if you haven't, or I need a.
You can also buy it through Amazon or Hobby Lobby, both carry it too.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Gordon, welcome home. That's Bone, B-O-N-E, I think it is.
My apologies.
Yes, I'm on.
You are.
Do I start talking now?
Yep. You're all set.
Okay, what you're looking at is the bowl that I started out with 4/4 walnut. I glued two pieces together, and then I mounted on the bowl side. I mounted it on a Jerry Glazer screw chuck. I turned the bottom part of the bowl and turned a tenon on it about 3/16. Then I turned it around and grabbed it in a chuck and turned the bottom. And then I took it out of the chuck and I went to my drill press, and I drilled all those holes. They vary in size from 3/4, 1 inch to 3/4, half, and 3/8 plugs. And then I took a black cast iron pan and I took some sand that I got from Hobby Lobby and I turned it on high and I placed those down. I put the sand in about 3/8 thick on the pan, and I paid attention to them till they got black on one side. Then I took them out and I glued them into the top. Then I grabbed it in the lathe on a tenon and turned it smooth. Then I turned it around and finished off the bottom. And when I had it finished on the bottom, there's a heart there that I built a jig that, and I have a router that drops in. It rides on they call that a little 1/4 inch brass plate, and I cut in there 5/16 into the bottom of the bowl. Then I went to another piece of maple and I cut the male part and pressed it all down in there, and it came out very well.
It did.
So I was pleased, and it's going to go to our grandson. It's on the bottom side. It says the word Travis loves Sarah and the date of their wedding. So I'm giving that to them for a wedding present.
Cool.
We should not
Oh.
ship until get it packed up and shipped, right?
I beg your pardon?
I said this is share with Travis.
Yes.
Thank you
Yeah.
very much. Well done.
Thank you very much.
So
I could talk a little bit how that piece, the maple heart. Am I still talking?
yes.
I cut the male on a piece of 3/4 maple, and then I took double stick tape. I cut the maple around the heart on a bandsaw. Then I put double stick tape on it and I glued it to another piece of wood, put it in a vise and got a lot of pressure on it. Then I could hold it, and I cut the 4/4 maple. I cut it to about 5/16 thick, very close to my outline of my heart. And then the outline of the heart fell, and I just trimmed up the bottom side with a file and pressed it down in with glue in there. And that's how I got that. The secret, when you're cutting 4/4 maple in half, and you don't want your fingers there, I press it on with double stick tape. I put my pressure on it in a vise, and that holds it very firm while I'm pushing it through the bandsaw. So that's how I did that.
It can be pretty dangerous.
It's tricky, yeah. And these are a set of ornaments. The middle support is a piece of manzanita, and the secret of the manzanita, as I picked it up off the ground, it still had the red on it. And then I sand here and there, and then the underneath the red is the cambium layer, and I get that white effect. And then I turned all the ornaments. I won't be explaining how I do that, because I saw another fellow do an ornament. So you guys know how to do the ornament. So that's what I did. Thank you.
Thank you, Gordon. Jean-Louis, you're up next with a story, I understand. Microphone.
Hi, everybody.
Hey,
Yeah,
Jean-Louis.
I start to be interested about this type of wood turning, and it's because of Kim Harvey, who asked me one day at the club. He saw a French video saying it was a star in a sphere and so on. I don't remember the URL. So I start to dig into it and find out a book written in the 17th century, the Handbook of a Wood Turner. And you can find some pictures like this, in the book of things that you can do, with different things inside. Of course, you need to start with almost a perfect sphere. Of course, nothing is perfect, but very, because when you start to trace this thing, you need to be very precise also. And for example, from that point to that one, from the big opening, it's 35 millimeter, 0.17. And you need to start from the pole and trace all of them and come back to the pole. And obviously, if you are off, everything will be off. That sphere is 65 millimeter diameter, and then you put it in a chuck, which is also which maintains the sphere, and then you cut it inside, and you use this type of tool. I don't know if you can see that. They are very tiny, and you have a special tool holder like you can see here, and then I have a 12 large opening and 20 smaller one, and the that sphere is approximately 3 millimeter thick. The other 5 inside are 2 millimeter, and the little ball inside is approximately a little bit less than 1 centimeter. And all of them are obviously moving inside. And so you can do a lot of things, like I show you on the picture. You can do a star inside balls, and you can do inside sphere. You can do a box inside with lids, and inside the box you can put another sphere, and inside the sphere you can put stars. But the problem with this is that you need to start with almost a perfect sphere, and then to be very, very precise and very patient also. If you speed up a little bit, obviously 2 millimeters, and you are a little bit off, you can go through. So it's need to be very, very, very precise. The other problem is that every time you change the diameter of a sphere, obviously you need to change the chuck, you need to change the tools, you need to change the tool order. And if you want to do stars and everything inside, you need more tools, that you cannot buy in the market anyway. You need to fabricate them yourself. That's the trick. I am talking with two French guys, one in south of Paris and one in south of France, in Millau. And the guy in Millau, Paul Texier, reproduced almost all the pieces that François Barrault did in the 16th, 17th century. All of them. It's unbelievable. So they invite me on my next trip in France, both of them. And I am using the tool from Claude Charpignan. And he tried the other tool from David Springlet and so on, and he was not too satisfied with them, so he developed his own. And I am trying to contact some companies here to laser cut all these little tools, different diameters and so on, to see what's happened. And obviously it's different wood turning, same piece of wood, obviously. So no glue, no nothing.
Future of the GOP and what role the former president will play in it. New reporting from the Washington Post suggests it is still.
What? I didn't get that.
I think that was just back talk. Sorry.
Oh.
I haven't seen one of these balls for quite a long time. There was a gentleman in Seattle who used to do them very regularly, and he's passed away a few years ago. So I'm delighted to see this. And it's extremely complex. Thank you.
David wrote a book that he basically duplicate the French handbook of wood turner, and all the tools and so on. It's unbelievable. That book is like, scan is like 600 pages, and they explain everything, how to do it, how to do the tools, but I mean, it's unbelievable what you can do, with the same piece of wood. Here I use maple. The best wood is boxwood that I had some difficulty to find in the States. So Paul Texier and Jean-Claude Chapignon are putting together some boxwood for me for when I go back in France next, I don't know when yet, but as soon as we can travel, you know.
Hard to get it big enough to do a ball like this, isn't it? Thank you very much. And complicated. I'm looking forward to seeing more from you. Colored inside, perhaps. Thank you so much. Larry, before we go into the beads of courage, any comments you'd like to add before we take a look at this month's selection?
Just it's going well. We've donated now to 3 hospitals. I have an email out to Kaiser Children's, and we just donated to Oakland Children's. They don't have a lot of storage capacity, so they took 4, but I'll replenish her every so often. We've had great response from everybody, so very much appreciate the participation. If anybody wants to do a Beads of Courage box, there's information on the front page of the website, and Jim and Dave have done some great videos on how to do one. So, and there's a lot of good stuff on the internet too. If you have any questions or need a bead, feel free to contact me. All my information is on that front page too. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Larry, for starting the program and giving us something to do that's worthwhile and has some lasting effect, hopefully. And let's take a look at what we have this month. Carl Mercer's got a number of pieces for us to take a look at first, and then David. Carl.
You hear me, Jim?
I can, yes.
Okay, this box I made, it's hackberry, and it's got a sliding lid, and it's got some walnut splines. The little beads on the top, they're colored ones. I drilled them out 1 inch and turned some 1-inch maple and sliced them off and painted them. And then I turned the round walnut in the middle. And this box is 6 by, hang on a minute, 5 by 6 by 8. And that's about it for that one. This one was made by a friend of mine here in Turlock, and it's redwood burl, and it's 6 inches in diameter and 7 inches tall. And we put the bead, I believe we did it on the inside of the lid. I can't remember, maybe the bottom, but he's a real good turner. He's a good friend of mine.
It was on the inside of the lid.
Pardon?
It was on the inside of the lid.
Okay, thank you, Larry.
Yeah,
By the
very
way,
nice.
Larry, I've got 3 more I'm going to get to you in the next couple of weeks.
That's great. Thank you.
Okay, that's about it, Jim.
Thank you, Carl. David, why don't you show us your box?
All right. Went through my garage, found 3 pieces of wood. It's an ebony handle. The top is cherry. The bottom is a piece of maple. But the cherry and the maple were just bland. So I had some Minwax gel stain from redoing my front double wide wooden doors. And so I used that on it, and it gave a sort of an interesting color. The maple, it absorbed the stain much faster than the cherry. And I used Minwax wipe on poly. And I used Larry's suggestion about some of the animals. I went to a Wellburn Farm Stick and Burn and bought some of their stick and burn animals and burned stuff and colored them. To color them, I used some Japanese pencils. They're paint pencils, non-toxic, and they're called Pintar. Just bought them on Amazon. So I burned everything in, then colored them. Just had some fun doing it. And then I used permanent markers to fill in little errors and issues. But it was great fun. And I got one more I'm starting for Larry as well. And it also, doing that and hollowing, I had to hollow a good portion of the bowl. I just hated doing that. And after watching one of the videos that we did, I watched some of those Kelton hollowers, which I just love. So that's it.
Dave, are all those colors permanent markers?
I know those colors, like on that zebra, the black and the white, they're actually the Pintar paint markers. I don't know if you can see this.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so they come and you shake them, but they're non-toxic. They come in a box with the colors. It looks something like this, if you can see that.
Your wine barrels are just they're
Oh,
getting
sorry.
away there.
Sorry. But it's a nice set of colors, and they're very bright. Some of them.
Very nice, Dave.
There's a rhinoceros on the back that's silver, which he came out pretty good too.
Very nice.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.
Kurt Stovall, what do you have for us?
Okay, these are two things I did. The left one, John Cobb actually turned the shape, but it was all rotten inside. So I had to put a new bottom on and then hollow out the inside. And the other was the one on the right is just a bowl I had. Then I had to go through and find some scrap wood to make the lids out of. And that's it.
One thing about the knobs, the thing comes up about knobs. Remember, we were dealing with kids, and these are nice knobs because most any child will be able to get their hand around it and lift it. So if we do a fancy knob or a large knob or something extremely small, be cautious about that it has to be suitable for a kid to be able to grab hold of. These are just perfect for that kind of purpose. Thank you. Larry, what do you have, Mr. Owner of Beads of Courage? Oh no.
This was well, as you can see, a bunch of pencils. I thought it'd be pretty easy, but actually it was a lot of work, and I learned a lot from it. I made a lot of mistakes along the way that I had to correct. At one point, I had it all finished, but I looked at it, and the lead in the pencils wants to smear when you sand it, and so does the epoxy that I glued the pencils on with. So I didn't like the way it looked. I put it back on the lathe and used a scraper and some card scrapers to scrape down the pencils. That got rid of most of the smear. And then I just sanded the walnut again and put a finish on it. And then after I put the finish, I just hit it real quick with sandpaper to take some of the roughness off the pencils. If you've ever turned pencils, they're hard wood. The ends did not cut well, but I guess that end grain is part of the problem. Anyway, I learned a lot from it. If anybody wants to try one, I'll tell you all my mistakes. So that was it.
Larry, when I see this thing, I think of Charlie Saul and his hexagonal pieces. This is entirely different.
Yeah. Well, hey, and by the way, I don't like to comment on every one because it take up too much time. But all the work that you guys are doing is just incredible. So, thanks again for the participation.
You're welcome, and thank you. Last piece is mine, and this is a segmented piece. I think there's about 500 pieces in this. The lid's going to be reworked. I have it done, but I don't like the shape of it. Goes back to the idea of knob sizes and shapes, and I think I'm going to remake the lid. But this is about 6 inches at the largest diameter. So it stands about 5 tall. And, I haven't done a segmented piece for a long time either. So it was kind of fun getting back into it and turning on the tunes and gluing and sanding in a nice quiet shop. So
Very
that's it.
nice.
Thank you, guys, and everybody for doing these. It's just wonderful to have that number of pieces. The quality is just
Hey,
outstanding.
Jim,
Yes.
Jim, did you get my,
There it is. It is. Yeah. Go ahead, John.
did you get my photo of mine? Because I was having a problem with my computer. And I think Susie ended up saying that I had nothing. I couldn't even speak, no audio, anything. So did you happen to get my piece? The soccer ball?
I did not. I'm just checking my mail right now, and I did not get a piece. It should have gone to Richard, I think.
Yeah, I did not get, I'm just checking my email once again. And no, I did not get any piece from you.
Okay, we'll resend it for next month.
Yeah.
Don't blame Susie.
She's the computer guru here.
Yeah, we all trust having somebody like that. That helps a lot. Well, I have one last thing to share before I turn it over to Richard and get us into our meeting. And I wanted to introduce you to, we haven't had a President's Challenge for a couple of months, and I have one for you coming up. So let me switch cameras here real quick.
But I can't get out
And
of this.
show you what I have in mind. How about stacked boxes? This has a removable lid. It also could be locked. So this is curly maple and redwood burl. Snack boxes.
Hey, Jim, could you spotlight yourself so we can see it better?
I'm sorry?
Could you spotlight yourself, please?
I don't know how to do that.
Oh, if you go in the top, or whoever's in charge.
Yeah.
Richard.
Rick, maybe.
God damn.
Pin. Pin is the word, I think, now. So let me go back. Here's the.
He is pinned. You are pinned, Jim.
I am pinned. Okay. That's one. Here's another set that I did. Fit is important. That one's a little tight. That's perfect. That's just a little loose. So you fix the bottoms in different ways. This is a 8-inch wall. Here's a set of oak with maybe a 16th wall. That's the fit I like. A little loose. So here's my proposal. That for next month's President's Challenge, you consider doing stacked boxes. And you may do 2 pieces, 3 pieces, as many as you like. They may or may not have lids. We have a video that Dave and I just did. I don't need the spotlight anymore, do I? I'll take it off. Okay, go back to come back here to my front camera. Okay. So the idea of the boxes is the fact that I'd like you to consider making a set of stacked boxes. The number of pieces is up to you. The fit is up to you. I like a nice loose fit. It should fall apart naturally, shouldn't have to be pulled. You may or may not choose to put lids on them. I have a set that I did a video of, and Dave's posted it. They sent you out the note with that in it. And he's also posted it to our website, so you can go back and see how I have done it. I did a set of 3 boxes for you to look at. with 3 different kinds of bottoms, 3 different kinds of bases done in 3 different ways. Give you some ideas. Next video we're going to do next week is we're going to put lids on each of these boxes so that they can stack with the lids included. Now that gets into a little bit of measuring considerations about thicknesses of different things and so on, but that's what we'll add to the video collection next week. So next month, it'd be fun to see some stacked boxes. I got my fits by using 180 grit sandpaper on the last pass. The idea was that I wanted to get a certain quality fit. And on the set that I did on the video, it worked out. On the sets I've just showed you, kind of. Some did, some I over sanded just a little bit. They fit a little looser than I'd like. The one with the locking lid is a piece of curly maple. And that piece was turned from wood that had been dried for at least 3 or 4 years. And it's still ovalized. That idea of a locking lid is not really, doesn't really lock. What happens is that piece, although it looks normal, is oval. And that's just from cutting the fibers and causing the tensions in the wood to change, and it moves. So that happens. So you either can use that as a locking lid box, or you can lie about it that you did it intentionally, or you can say that this is the truth of what wood just does. So anyway, next month, consider the possibility of doing a set of 2 or more stacked boxes. Size is up to you. Okay. So Richard, I think it's time for me to turn this back over to you and ask you to introduce our presenter for today.